Hey everybody, welcome back to 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Nick.
And I'm Brian, and today we have a reoccurring special guest. Mr. Ian Taylor is in the house.
Hi Ian.
Hi guys, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. And we have him on today because we all, like most of you who were fans of the Amazing Spider-Man universe, wanted to see a third movie made. And we're not talking to the people who all of a sudden now are Andrew Garfield stans. We're talking to the OGs.
Just because he came back out of nowhere and it's popular.
Just because he was the best part of No Way Home.
At the beginning.
Yeah, we were there, diehards at the beginning. We all love Toby, but Andrew has a special place in all of our hearts. To begin, we're going to each start with our 5 wants for our version of The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then we're going to combine all of our thoughts and build The Amazing Spider-Man 3 from top to bottom. So Ian, I'm going to start with you.
I think the first thing I'd want to do is kind of lean in, like the one thing that set him apart from the Toby before is like his personality, but also they had the whole genetic like spider thing going on, and they set up some plot threads with like the lizard knowing his parents and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to see the third one kind of bring all that home a little bit, because they set up different ideas and how he has this going on, and then we never really got to bring it back together. The second thing would be to tone down a little bit on all the villains, because when in Amazing Spider-Man 2, it went from just having the lizard in the first movie to they had like so many, and then so many teases in the second movie. They not only did they have Goblin and Electro, and you were teasing Black Cat, and they were teasing, you know, Vulture and all these other guys, and like they clearly wanted to just all of a sudden have a whole Avengers team. Basically, they had a Sinister Five in No Way Home, and that was using 6-7 other movies worth of buildup to get to.
And that's why it didn't feel rushed, right? Like it didn't seem like it was a bunch of stuff, because we already knew all these villains.
Yeah, you just took bits and pieces and brought them together, and you gotta play the long game there. Like 3 can't be the Sinister Six. Number 5 or 6 has to be the Sinister Six. So
did you have an idea for your villain that it takes place after No Way Home?
I had a whole other idea, that basically
we'll just spew that.
Spew that one? Okay.
Spew that one,
all
and
right,
then we'll combine it.
Then we go back to it? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what I did is I took one little retcon, and the scene with Venom at the like the post-credit for Venoms that was leading No Way Home, where he was all of a sudden in the MCU and he licked the TV. That turns out they were remembering it wrong. That wasn't Tom Holland. That was Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that he licked the TV. And because Venom is such a screw up, he went into the wrong universe. And actually, he was in Andrew Garfield's universe. And when he leaves, that symbiote is left in Andrew Garfield's universe instead. And so that's the setup for this, is that symbiote makes its way back to New York. Like it gets caught on some like traveler's luggage, and then it goes all the way through everything and ends up back inside a vault in New York, where Black Cat happens to be breaking in trying to steal it, because they did set up Black Cat in number 2 as working for Oscorp. And then Peter goes in, stops her stealing it. Then you find out like they've been doing this a while, like sort of thing. She breaks in, he stops her. They kind of do their whole Black Cat Spidey flirty thing. Ends up the symbiote attaches to Peter. And then we get kind of like a whole other thing where he ends up getting like the Spectacular Spider-Man episode where there's like a Sinister Six that ends up fighting, and he's like the black suit sort of takes over. We end up getting that, and the end of the movie is that he ends up having to like lose the symbiote, and then it teases and connects onto Eddie Brock as like a setup for the next one.
Nice.
So I had some other ideas like in there where like you can bring back Rhino and Goblin, and then how at the end of Morbius, Vulture all of a sudden is in this Morbius universe. That same thing kind of happened, but Scorpion got moved into this universe. He was in prison with Vulture, and he ends up joining them, because you can build on the fact that we've already teased him as being Scorpion. He just never got his powers. So yeah, I just kind of thought it'd be cool to bring the symbiote back in there and then play on that storyline.
For sure. Because I also had those kind of thoughts. It's like there's so much to do. No Way Home kind of put us in a place where you either have to delve into his dark side before the movie, but then in order to not use the symbiote to help push his dark side even further, because he hasn't fought an alien, so you have to do all that after No Way Home.
Corner a little bit.
Yeah, you're in a tight spot, because you can't do much before. You just have to show him being angry, and without the symbiote, it's like you don't really want to see a Spider-Man it's interesting, but you don't want to see that the whole movie without a purpose, right? But he hasn't fought an alien, so you can't do that, and then you have to do it after, like Ian said, where we follow up the Venom tease. It's like, now, when you said you wanted to have the symbiote that's left there, do you want that's Andrew's universe, or do you want?
I literally was thinking
Tom
the
Hardy
scenes that
looking
happened with Venom, you put those scenes at the start of the movie, but that was in Andrew's universe instead.
Gotcha.
So Tom
Okay.
Hardy leaves, blips out just like before. That symbiote is sitting on the bar in Mexico, except that bar in Mexico is in Andrew Garfield's universe.
Gotcha. So Tom Hardy is not in Andrew Garfield's universe.
Is not in it, but that symbiote tease with his Venom is in there.
I'm going to use, Ian, because we have the same kind of thoughts.
It was just the way to get there. I just thought I'd be cool to try and bring it after the fact.
Right. So,
Right.
because my ideas are similar to you, but mine's the next movie.
Yeah, building off of what they were actually making in the first place,
Yes.
instead of
Yeah.
trying to like take all the puzzle pieces that No Way Home has left about and put them into a cool story.
So, Nick, what do you want to see for the third movie?
I want to see the same outfit.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 outfit?
Yes.
It's the best costume that's ever been made.
Yep, ever. I would not change a single thing about it.
Nope.
That intro scene when he's flying down through the buildings and is like the materials like rippling on his back. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, you sold me. That's what I want to see again.
Yeah.
Don't change
the
it.
eyes is what sells me
Oh.
on a costume.
Mhm.
Let alone the
Yeah.
suit looks so good, like the color scheme they did. It's like it's like an updated variation of Toby's, but the eyes are what make it for me. And Andrew's performance in general,
Yes.
it's all about the movement, but like his
Yeah.
eyes don't move like Tom's, but you can
No.
tell exactly what he's feeling just with those
Yeah.
lenses.
You don't even need them to. You can just tell the way that he's
Yeah.
emoting through it.
Like the way he like turns his head, whips around, like there's just so much expression without an actual face to it. He's a really good like body actor. I want to see a little bit of that kind of anger, that resentment starting to build up a little bit after the loss of his lovely girlfriend. Then we need to see kind of more of that, because at the end it's kind of redeemed. He feels like he's moving on from it. He's learning, but I think that was kind of to make the movie end on a light note. We
Right.
need to
Yeah.
kind of like see the repercussions of that in the future. We need to see him like really sit down and be like,
Because he was gone for a year, right? Because when he was
Yeah.
sitting at the grave, you saw all the seasons
It
pass.
kept going by, but it's still, even a year is that enough time
No.
after the traumatic event? Like
exactly.
it's enough that he can join the world again, but he's not just all of a sudden forgot it for the rest of his life. Like that's going to keep coming back to haunt him.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like even what we saw, I know we're not really counting No Way Home, but even the way we saw his interactions catching MJ,
Yeah.
like that response is just like, oh, he still feels
It's
it, right?
still right there at the top. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like that was the first thing he thought of. And the
Yeah.
first thing that that came. Yeah. So
Because
it's
even
just-
when he was telling them on the rooftop, when he said he lost Gwen, he was already like full mist in the eyes.
Oh yeah.
Like he hadn't even started
Absolutely.
talking yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he just crushed it because he's a great Spider-Man.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, so I definitely want to see a little bit more of that sadness, that resentment, something building up so that we can get to a little bit of a darker storyline when it comes to if we bring the symbiote in. It really kind of comes full circle where that anger just gets like amplified.
I think that really bridges it well, because like it's not something that comes out of nowhere. Like when happened in Spider-Man 3, he went from being happy-go-lucky Peter to all of a sudden he's just angry at everything, and it just feels like it's not true to the character. But when you see that he does have these feelings underneath that he's been trying so hard to move past and suppress, and now he's just not able to, when the symbiote pushes him that extra bit further, it makes it more of a believable transition. And it really adds to show how he's been struggling before and how hard he was working to stop it until the symbiote kind of just pushes him over.
Right.
Exactly.
Because even with that, the symbiote had such a good dynamic going from No Way Home's perspective. Even if he has come to terms with the loss, the struggle that he went through, the symbiote's going to have that to latch onto, right? It's still there.
Exactly.
It's still within inside him. So I think, using Ian's going forward and using how you want to see, Andrew deal with those, repercussions, even after that year he was not Spider-Man.
Yep.
I think that's a good way to go forward.
Another thing I do want to see, Ian, you brought it up kind of already. I want to see more of like Peter's parents' backstory. For some reason, I thought that was like such a great addition to it. It's like
such a totally different way than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there is a little bit of precedent for that in some of the stories, but just like 90% of the comic stories, the cartoons, all that don't even get, like, it's not even on the table.
Yeah, it's like one episode or something.
Right.
Yeah. So it's such a huge differentiator between all the other stories. It lets you have a fresh take on a character that you're so familiar with.
I love the feel of that movie. Like this is more of like a visual thing for me as well. I loved the coloring of it. Everything was like bright and it was kind of cartoony, but it fit the universe so well. It just fit it fit the character. It wasn't like that muted tones or anything.
To me, those two movies are the best looking Spider-Man films we've gotten. Even with the first one, it's dark, right? It's still dark, but it's like gorgeous to look at. Whereas the second one's more bright and vibrant and the special effects are absurd.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, they are. Yep.
The second one really holds that. Like the first one, they were trying to be a little bit more Dark Knight, kind of brooding, darker. And then the second one, they're like, you know what? This is Spider-Man. He's like a positive, colorful comic character. Like, and they just really embraced it. And yeah, it just fits his tone so well.
So I'm going to be honest with you guys. This was so hard for me. And I don't even know why.
You've been thinking about this for forever.
Since the second movie. Like, I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was 2 years old, and that was like 1995. And just thinking about, because I think No Way Home really put it into perspective. It's like, okay, is it before or after? But then we were talking like, what if we just remove No Way Home and like just do it right after number 2? And so I woke up this morning because I was struggling last night, and I was like, guys, I'm like, I have no clue what I even want to do. Like, I have an idea, but it's just like, No Way Home is really throwing me off. So with not having No Way Home at all, I'm just following like Amazing Spider-Man still continuing. I want the same suit. It's my favorite suit that's ever been on screen. I don't want Mary Jane. I want them to continue with Black Cat because she was already introduced in the second movie. The villain, I was thinking about this morning. I want this movie to be a psychological thriller, which is, you would think it was crazy for a superhero film. But I think going from Andrew's turmoil after the second movie and him really having to come to terms with what, like, Spider-Man is, you know, the hero that Gwen wants the world to see, right? Like, even after her last message, like, Spider-Man is hope for the city. So, like, him dealing with her loss and, like, it's still there, but he has to go on being a crime fighter. I had 2 villain options, and one could have been a sub and one could have been a main. One of them was Kraven the Hunter, who I absolutely love. He's one of my favorite villains, I think, in the Spider-Man Rogue Gallery. But thinking about, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a villain that is family tied to Kraven the Hunter, and his name is the Chameleon.
Yeah. Oh,
Chameleon is Kraven's half brother.
Considered him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I knew.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think I'm gonna leave Kraven out of this one, and I'm gonna save him for the 4th one because he's gonna be part of the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
You could also even then kind of play into that whole like family revenge thing.
Yes.
After, which is now gives a valid reason for Kraven to really want to hunt Spider-Man instead of just like, I want to hunt you because I want to be the best, but it still makes him kind of a terrible person for literally just wanting to hunt this other human. But now he has a revenge arc against him. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, because it's more than just Kraven wanting the greatest hunt, right? He sees Spider-Man on screen. He's like, oh my God, I've hunted all these other animals, but Spider-Man is like something I've never encountered. So that's his main purpose, is to hunt Spider-Man because he wants the greatest hunt. But I think leaving him up to the 4th to tie in with the Sinister Six, I think would be better. And I think having Chameleon as the only villain would really change. Like, I feel like this movie would be something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We could really play with Chameleon's powers, because in the old cartoon, he had like a switch. It was like a tech thing where he can like transform and make himself look like other people. But then there's like, we've seen the lizard in the first movie, so we know changing is possible. So what if that's in his like DNA, where he's taken a serum where he can actually morph like Mystique?
Right.
And that would really fit this universe where they've embraced this whole genetic mutation sort of thing. That would be perfect.
And Chameleon, to bring back Spider-Man 2, the ending of Spider-Man, the guy with the top hat, he is going to be Chameleon.
He's Chameleon, and he's been infiltrating this whole thing.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Yes. I love it.
He's been posing as somebody that Harry and his dad think that they know, and he's took this guy out of the picture a long time ago, and he's just been pretending to be. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was all piecing together this morning, boys. And so he's Chameleon. Should we give Chameleon the ability to know Peter as Spider-Man?
He could have been a spy that was working with his dad when
His
his dad
parents,
was doing
right?
all this research.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's because they were doing all sorts of espionage, research, spy stuff.
Yeah.
And he was actually undercover pretending to be someone that he knew. And this whole time he was this guy trying to steal secrets and bring them back to his country. And that
Right.
gives him a personal tie to Peter and to his parents. So we get to explore his parents' backstory. I think that could really work.
And then I think we should have him know Peter is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
To really
Yep.
do like the whole like Riddler thing from the Batman. Like
Yep.
really
Yeah. Mhm.
so that way like he can morph into Gwen and like make Peter think he's
Psychological. Yeah.
and
Give
like
him those flashbacks.
yeah, and he can morph
Yeah.
into all the villains, making them think like they broke out of prison or something. Like give Peter a real emotional journey in this movie. Whereas Chameleon's not a physical, he's not gonna beat him hand to hand. There's no way.
No.
But he's just gonna break him down mentally because Peter is already at the point where he's already had to overcome the loss of the love of his life. And he's still processing returning to be Spider-Man. Like, how does he still balance that act? And now he's in a place where, you know, his parents' story still we're going to build it a little bit more. But now all of a sudden he's seeing Gwen everywhere. Like he's being like Chameleon spying
He
on
could see
him.
his parents too.
Yeah. Like the deleted scene in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And his dad
That
comes
could
back.
be canon, but it's not really his dad. It's Chameleon.
Yes.
And then it ends up that later in when his dad comes back again, he starts like antagonizing him and he's like, what are you doing, Dad? You're supposed to be like, and then it turns out that this is just another take he's having to try and psychologically torture.
What if we open the movie with that scene?
It's already
Like we open it with like him defeating the Rhino, whatever.
Sure.
And then like him going to Gwen's grave to tell her like he's able to, you know,
he's finally
he's talking to her like he's processed. And then all of a sudden his dad shows up. We get the scene from the Spider-Man 2, but it's not his father because his father's passed, right? But it's Chameleon. So then we really he overhears, you know, that way there's more drama with Chameleon knowing all these secrets about him. And like that's when we get him going to the prison to see Dr. Kirk Connors. He's getting a visual look at him so he can morph into him to like mess around with outside.
Who says that post-credit scene has to even be during The Amazing Spider-Man? Maybe the post-credit scene where he sees Lizard is actually in this time.
Right.
Kind of like back when the old like MCU post-credits when Tony Stark went and talked to General Ross.
Yeah.
And that was actually supposed to have been like way later in the timeline, but they put it there.
Right.
And so they could do the same thing. Yeah.
Because then when he goes to see Harry knows he's Peter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where he finds.
And then, so Harry's the one in charge.
He could have maybe just been trying to get after Peter himself to get his dad's secrets. And now he learns the fact that he's Spider-Man from Harry, and that just changes everything.
Yeah. And then Harry's the one behind everything, but Chameleon's the one doing all the dirty work on the outside. So it's like Harry's the kingpin. Like he's like the one in the background. He's like the Doc Ock, say, of this universe. I know Doc Ock's, they teased it in the second one, but we're going to build our Sinister maybe a little bit differently. So Harry's the one who's kind of morphing everything together, but Chameleon's going to be the one to really break Peter down so that when they finally break out in the fourth movie to take him out, he's at his weakest, right?
Yes. And he's not confident in himself because like he's coming off of like he's finally back and he's feeling so good about everything. And then to break him down to the point, like, because right now, if he was to have to take him all on, he just defeated Rhino, he defeated everybody. He can do whatever, but he's got to be doubting himself so that he needs to build himself back up.
Right. Yep. And he can even take the shape of Black Cat, like Felicia, to really mess with him. Because Peter, you know, there's going to be the point where he's looking for, you know, companionship, and Black Cat's going to be, he's going to say, find her. We'll get to it when we start building the movie on like a mission or something. Like Ian said, like maybe she's trying to steal something. Like that's how they start interacting. And then she gets the whole flirty thing going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she, just like before, like in some of the other media, she is his like Spider-Man girlfriend, but not like, she doesn't necessarily know he's Peter, but he's like, when he's Spider-Man, they have that companionship, and they kind of can work together, work against each other, that sort of thing. But he can't share all of himself. And so he still has that hole he needs to fill. And that's why that torture of seeing Gwen everywhere is hurting him even more. Then he feels guilty about feeling this way about Felicia.
Right.
Because he still sees Gwen.
I feel like we start off with maybe the villains, and then throughout the movie, we get more personal with the transformations, right? We see Gwen, and then like towards the end, what really brings the chameleon out, he impersonates Spider-Man like he does in all the cartoons and Spectacular. He does it amazingly.
Mhm.
And that's when Spider-Man's like, wait a minute, like he really starts to think about everything he's gone through in this whole movie. And then we could tie into the whole No Way Home thing where he was not pulling his punches. And like Chameleon was messing with him so much that he had to, for the first time, take out a villain.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you guys like where I'm going with this?
I really like it. I thought I had a good story, and I like yours way better.
So I think we could easily we'll start with this one, we'll build it, and then we'll take everything and we'll go into the 4 and 5, because I think 4, Sinister
I think I can
6,
help with 4 because I got a little bit that we can work with there.
Because we'll have already built the Black Cat relationship in this one, right?
It works way better when you actually see them build that relationship instead of it just being kind of like an off-screen, hey, we've been doing this for a while sort of thing.
Right. And then the 4th one, he'll get the symbiote, and you'll have to deal with all that trauma again, and then fight the Sinister Six and take them all out. And then Venom will be because Venom is like, I feel done right, is the most
personal
villain that he has, right? Besides Green Goblin messing with him and like Doc Ock. Yeah, those are the top tiers. But like Venom is like his worst nightmare inside of himself, right? So we can really play into Venom being, the 5th and final film, right?
What I had thinking of the end of the one I was spinning up was that at the end, once he beats all of the villains and they end up thinking that they destroyed the symbiote during the fight, there's a reporter who's taking pictures of the crime scene, and it turns out that the symbiote is not destroyed, and you see it just latch on, and that whole classic like camera falls out and you just hear the sounds off screen, and then you turn and you see that the camera says property of Eddie Brock.
Right.
And then it's just setting up that like for the next one.
Right. Because we can even introduce Eddie in this movie. Because Peter's working as for the Bugle, right? We saw in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he's not physically working for the Bugle. So maybe like Eddie is doing all the reporting of all these like the Spider-Man sightings near the end of the movie, right? And Peter's like, that's not me, right? Eddie's the one reporting all this stuff. So it's
that
like
would work great. Because then it gives that bit of antagonistic relationship where like, and Eddie isn't just trying to be a jerk. He really is trying to tell the news about how Spider-Man has broke bad. And he just really believes this is the case. And Peter, for obvious reasons, is against him. But everyone else is actually on Eddie's side because they're like, listen, we have proof. This is Spider-Man doing these things.
Yeah.
And then it's just like Black Cat. They have a history before this movie, and it just makes it so much better that he's been a character in the world.
This sounds great. I was stressing so hard last night. Yeah, like let's get this into production. Like, why weren't Sony like? I feel
they should have been so jazzed on this because this is gold.
It's so easy. Like they built like Spider-Man 2 still was successful.
Yeah, we're not making up crazy ideas. We're pulling from stuff they already put down.
Yeah. So let's just jump in and start at the beginning, guys. Like,
okay.
Do we want to? I say we have to open this with a Spider-Man scene, like a swinging scene, right?
Yeah,
I
think so.
It's the battle with Rhino's done, and he's off. He's conquered his first villain again, and he's off swinging, and he's trying to come to terms with being Spider-Man again, and he's swinging around, and and then we get his like sense of like it's going to be a joyful, like uplifting swing is what I feel like it should happen.
Yes,
and then at that point, I feel like it should cut to like a scene of the chameleon just chilling in like a lair, watching it on TV, like Spider-Man defeats the Rhino. And that's when we get our first introduction of
kind
the
of
chameleon.
like a little bit like the beginning of Iron Man 2, where you start off with the real version of Tony saying that transitions through the TV to Ivan watching him celebrating there.
Right.
Like, yes. Yeah.
And to really pinpoint its chameleon, should he, as he's watching this, as the camera say pulling back, and we get an over the shoulder as we don't know who the character is, but then before the scene cuts, should we have him transform into Spider-Man to really and then
have
cut
him
the
like
scene?
flip through a couple, like have him like being there as himself, Spider-Man, like kind of like getting like,
or a bunch of news articles of like people Spider-Man has encountered. So he's like shifting through those transformations. Like
that's better.
Like practicing.
He's flipping through all his lines. He's like, it's like
he's practicing his lines, but he's not saying anything.
Yeah.
It's all physical, So yeah, I think that's how we should really kick it off with like really striking home. And like, I really want this to be like a thriller. Like it has to be dark in a way, but only in the sense of like, it's going to be a vibrant looking movie, but only in the sense that Peter's struggling so much with what the chameleon's doing.
The themes are dark, not the visuals.
Yeah. It's more like unsettling. I kind of picture it. Still that bright and colorful looking thing, but we feel tension.
Right.
Yeah, because we know that this is not right. You get that uncanny, like, well, but Gwen's not, like, why is she there? Why is it, like, you get that psychological sort of uneasiness, not
Yep.
the visuals to it. Yeah.
Right. From there, how do you guys feel we should, because we have the intro of Spider-Man and then we have the villain introductory. How do you think do we cut back to Peter living his life?
Maybe we transition back to him, like, finishing his swinging, and then we do the graveyard right away.
Right. Like he
'Cause you
swings
wanna
to the
have that-
graveyard.
Yeah, because that's actually a happy, like, it was a reunion with his dad.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, he can't transition because that's supposed to be Chameleon.
Right. But Chameleon
unless
in this
Chameleon's already in New York practicing, and then you see him finish on his dad.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him landing. Or maybe he's like on his way, he gets caught up like with some like local friendly neighborhood stuff. Like there's a water main that breaks and he's got to go catch a person who's going to get squished or something. And then he finally makes his way to the grave. And that's when his dad shows up.
Right. Okay. Here's the thing. How insane would we be to not even show Chameleon until the end of the movie?
Yes, that was my.
I mean,
I was just going to bring that up.
We think it's Peter's dad, right? Everything.
Yep.
And then Peter's like doing his usual, like to say he's working for the Bugle or whatever, walking around New York, and he sees glimpses, like he thinks he sees Gwen, and then he thinks he sees somebody else, and then he gets reports that Doc Connors is out.
He thinks he sees Gwen, and that makes him falter, and then he actually causes the incident that he has to solve. He like runs into a hydrant.
Yes.
And then he's got to go fix it, and like. He ends up being the reason for this big like environmental thing he's got to stop because he gets distracted thinking he's seeing.
I think his joyful swinging, all very peaceful. So in Amazing Spider-Man 2, we had this like really triumphant music at the beginning with him swinging through the city. Yes.
It's great.
This one's more like maybe a revision of that theme, but
or
like,
the first movie's theme, because that's the first movie scene is like beautiful. It's heroic, but it's soft. I think we should go back to that theme.
Yes. And then when maybe he like lands somewhere, maybe not too high up, but he like kind of glimpses over. Maybe we just end the scene and now he's like walking around, and he like gets his first glimpse of Gwen.
Right. Because he does know all her favorite spots from the spying on her in the second movie.
Yeah. Maybe he just misses her and he's going to check out all of her spots.
Like he's okay, but he just wants to,
go back
and feel the emotion again.
And you could do that classic, like the trope of like you think you see somebody and they turn around and it's a blonde, but it's a different person.
Yeah.
But then like the second spot he goes to, it's actually her, and then she goes in the crowd and he loses her, sort of thing. And he's like, "What is happening?"
Right.
Yep.
So we do it in like a Riddler sort of way in the Batman, because he doesn't actually ever fight the Riddler.
Right.
No.
Right. He fights the Riddler's plans. So if we do it like that, and then at the very end of the movie, when he confronts Spider-Man, he doesn't.
We could even show all these scenes we're talking about,
and then have
we could
cycle
show
through
him
all
practicing his lines, but it's like a flashback leading up to these are the things that I've done to stop you, and like you stand no chance.
Right, and then when Peter finally sees him, he does all the transformations in like a matter of 10 seconds, and Peter's just like, "What's happening?" And he's like, and then I
am your torment.
Yeah, I mentally broke you. Right.
Yeah.
And he's seeing all these that way we don't know until the very end. The audience might have an idea, but like that reveal at the end of like there's somebody like behind all of this for a reason.
They know that somebody's doing it, but they don't know who or why.
Yep.
We could tease the top hat guy, but not tease that he's Chameleon. Like we could show the top hat guy watching the thing because we already know that he's working with Harry.
Yeah.
Like, and then you might just assume, oh, this is just all Harry's plan.
Yeah.
But then you don't realize that it's been Chameleon all along.
Yeah, and like we've broken you, right? Like he has to be totally broken at the end of this movie.
And maybe that's what helps. That's what breaks him and makes him like not pull his punches and finish him, because he just is the rage of how could you do this to me? Like,
like I lost everybody, right?
Because he doesn't know he's been being until they have the Chameleon Spider-Man doing all this stuff. He doesn't even know he's being framed, and now he's being targeted. He doesn't understand why. And at the end, the Chameleon lays out everything, and he just snaps.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
All right, we got the end. We got the beginning. Now let's fill
it in.
Because we use the guy in the black hat, like say the Batman, for example. At the beginning, we see the Riddler trying to take out all these people, right? But we'll switch it where the guy in the black hat is impersonating all these people.
Yeah.
Right, that Peter knows. So instead of having it be like all the people that did the Riddler wrong, he's taking them out. But we're trying to break Spider-Man down for Harry and his plan, and the Chameleon is the way to do it.
How do you think we should break Spider-Man down?
So what if Peter's father is a prominent role rather than just having him, Chameleon jump in and out of certain characters? What if, because we've already set it up in the second movie that Peter doesn't know anything about his father, right? That was the whole reason for the second movie storyline, is to learn something about his father. So if this movie, we introduce him in that graveyard scene, we take it from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, ask him, where have you been? Like all my life, like, where were you? Like he had to run away, whatever.
All he has to do is look like him and know up to 20 years ago history, and the rest doesn't even have to fake it. Like,
right. And if he was a spy with, this whole time with Peter's parents, like
he'll have a good background.
My angle is that Peter, it's going to be a building relationship with him and his father, but Chameleon is just going to feed him a bunch of lies.
And set him up for failure, making him think that
he's
like his father is not the hero, right? He's what the news reports said he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's trying to like
problem
change all these feelings he's felt his whole life about his dad, but they're lies. But it's kind of like Palpatine and lying to Anakin and kind of molding him down the path he wants. Like, the Jedi aren't telling you the truth. Only I can, like, they're not letting you be. It's someone who is pretending to be someone who they're not, but they're mentoring him and pushing him. Like, that's a really good idea.
Because by the end of the movie, when Peter confronts Spider-Man, and then the Chameleon starts doing all the changes, he ends on his father.
It's his dad, and it's like, what?
Right? Yeah. And so he's already
that's
like
even better than any of the other ideas.
And Peter's just like, at this point, he's broken. Like everything he's learned this whole movie is a lie. Like, who's real? Is Black Cat even real? Him seeing Gwen, it's more than just him thinking it's a hallucination. It's like, because he'll see Gwen in the transformation, right? He's like, he's broken me down completely. Maybe he'll even see Harry.
I was going to say, he could switch to Harry, and then, or earlier in the movie, he could pretend to be Harry and try and reach out to Peter and like apologize or like do something that try and makes Peter feel like he was the bad guy. Be like, listen, like, I'm sorry that this is how things went. I regret Gwen's death beyond belief, but you have to understand how you forced me in a corner. You refused the one thing that could possibly give me a real life. And this is your fault. I don't want it. And then just like, even if that's something Harry really would have said, to find out that it came from Chameleon too is just
even more powerful.
Because the Chameleon, he's shifty. So he can, like, he in the Spectacular Spider-Man, he's all about the tech, right? He has the Tinkerer working with him.
Yeah.
On top of him being like a mystique power, he can build sets, so like he can fake footage, right?
Yeah. I was thinking
he can fake a jail cell.
He could almost be like the old school Mysterio, like not the one they used in the MCU where he's using all this kind of tech illusion stuff, where he's literally using like sleight of hand with like sets. So he's got like a little thing up his sleeve or something, just enough to make it somewhat convincing. Almost kind of like, like in Spectacular where he had those kind of sort of web shooters, but they were just like nets. Like,
Chameleon, I think, is the perfect choice for this movie. Just to really, Peter's at his worst. Chameleon is such a great mind-bending villain, right? It could really break him down even more to the point where he just doesn't know what to believe anymore, right? He's a hero without any hope.
He doesn't know where to go to trust somebody to help him. Aunt May's still alive, right?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
But he could kill her. Or maybe not so dark, but
that's so nuts.
Like,
no, I mean, we've had it before.
His dad comes back. Aunt May knows something is off because she knew who he was before. And you could kind of see him like, he's like being mentoring Peter. And then he's just a total jerk to her off camera, like as you leave, and she keeps, and so then she is then like gaslighting Peter, saying, Peter, I don't know how to tell you, but you can't trust your father. Something is off. And he's like, no, you're just trying to push me away. You're jealous that I have this relationship now. And they end up
because Aunt May knows things Peter doesn't. Aunt May has been around Richard and Mary forever.
For years. Yes. Yeah, they were literally family. So so then that creates a rift between him and her. And then maybe he doesn't actually kill her, but maybe something happens. And
Aunt May's died in the new movie.
Even if, it wouldn't be the craziest thing, but even if like she just gets injured and Peter blames himself because now he realizes that he should have trusted her. And it's just one more thing that could break him down.
Yeah. I don't think we kill Aunt May because that's the only thing he has left.
Exactly. And I
they
feel
have
like
too good of a relationship.
Yeah, but we need that tension between the two of them because his father's back in the picture. He's learning things. Well, he thinks he's learning valuable things, but Aunt May's picking up on these subtle interactions that they might have. Or he even notices maybe at first Peter, like maybe like his dad says, "You can't tell anybody."
Not even your aunt. You can't even tell your aunt.
Yeah. And he's like kind of hiding it, and Aunt May picks up on him being a little bit different. And then as it's going, he's like a very different person to her. And then finally they have a confrontation about it. And
maybe he like kidnaps her and impersonates her for part of the movie. That would be a personal stake for what Peter needs to, when he finds out what's been going on. He's like, you took my aunt from me. Like,
yeah.
So I'm trying to, other than the reveal, like psychologically to Peter, we need something so devastating to set up for the next movie.
Well, I think that we end, like near the end, he breaks out the Sinister Six.
Yes,
but he doesn't. Peter does not fight them in this movie, or he gets beat by them. Like, or maybe that's the final turn is that as he's dying, Chameleon reveals, this is just the beginning. You think that you've stopped me? Wait until you find out what just happened while you were busy with my distractions.
Because then we get a clip of all the people breaking out.
Yeah, it's like he's doing one thing, and then all the bombs go off, and the seawall starts coming in. It's like, this wasn't even my plan. You haven't done anything. That's when you find out that all the villains are out and they're causing mayhem, and it ends just like on such a down note.
It ends on Harry's laugh. How crazy would that be?
That would be good.
Cool. Yeah.
And then the post-credit scene. Do we even bring in? I want Craven, but I feel like because we didn't really.
That's the post-credit. I think that you hear him you hear Chameleon talking to him, but you don't know who maybe he could be talking to Harry. Like you don't know who he's sending this message to in the end.
I'm finishing the plan or whatever.
Yeah. Aaron Taylor Johnson. And that's the tease, is Craven is coming.
And throughout the movie, Chameleon and like Harry are setting up situation for Spider-Man to like, do crime. Like obviously we're going to need him to do, be Spider-Man a little bit more.
Right.
So we're obviously going to have those scenes, but like just the fact that there's so much happening inside of his mind. It's really going to take it. It's a totally different film from the second movie. We're continuing the turmoil that he's gone through. And then, I'm jazzed.
If we're talking about doing crime and stuff, one of the things he could do is because we only have the only ones in jail are Lizard, Rhino, and
Harry, right?
So that's three other, if we count Craven, that's two other villains who need to be accounted for, who could be out in the world, but they're not they're like a super side villain. Sort of like Rhino was in 2, and that's the crime, is that Chameleon is out instigating these scenarios, making Peter capture them. They get sent back, but the plan is to get them sent back to prison so that Harry can involve them in this team.
Because we're going to need a Vulture.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to need Vulture because that was teased in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we have? 5? We have Goblin.
I would like to see Scorpion in one of these movies.
I feel like instead of Ock, we get rid of Ock, right? And say, because Goblin is going to be the head, right? Harry is going to be.
That's Goblin's. Ock's thing is to be the leader. So if Harry is the leader, we don't want Ock in this version.
Yeah. So instead of the tentacles, the arms, it'll be Scorpion's
tail
or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like even like they've been talking about, like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, we're going real deep with this, but they were talking about building physical. Scorpion was in the game.
They did have a Scorpion in there. He was wearing a
Rhino.
Suit. Yeah.
Yes.
But they were also weren't they infused with like the lizard DNA? Like
they were infused. They were trying to make. It was the same sort of idea. They were working with that genetics, and that was the mistake they ended up creating. Was this Scorpion?
So
monster.
we got Scorpion, Vulture, Goblin, Craven the Hunter, who comes in, the Lizard. Now the thing with the Lizard is, I feel like he has to be full lizard again in order to be.
Well, he can actually even be so far gone that he's not human. He gets more he gets the dinosaur snout. He's not redeemable.
So we know that he's gone.
Because we already know that all he has to do is give him a shot. We've already done it twice now. He's healed him. But if he's become the Lizard for so long that it's actually changed his core DNA, he can't just be reverted to Kirk Connors. He is now Lizard. He may be smart Lizard, but he is full
So we have 5. Who was the 6th one?
So we got Harry. You said Harry, Vulture, Scorpion, Lizard,
Craven.
Kraven, and Rhino.
Oh, Rhino.
Oh,
yes.
Rhino. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But
He's
I
not
think
going to be in the
Rhino
next
is
suit.
not.
I'm telling you.
Rhino is going to do the same.
No.
Maybe Rhino sees Scorpion and says, "I want that thing. I don't want suit. I need strength."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they
go.
give him some sort of thing. Yeah.
We could do Shocker.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking earlier, Shocker could be because if you did him right, he's a low level, but he's a good enough villain.
Unless we introduce him in the middle of the movie, like in the Spider-Man PS4 game, where he fights him for like a couple seconds. He's just a side hustle.
Yeah.
And then Peter puts him in jail, and then he's part of the Six, right?
That could be part of the people that Chameleon gets to have Spider-Man fighting to get him in prison,
right? Because then there's Six, and then there's Harry, right?
So
we have the Six him fight the Six, and Harry doesn't. He's orchestrating.
Yes.
Yeah, but this whole movie is going to be Chameleon.
Yeah,
Chameleon and the father relationship, the breaking down of his mind. What if the Chameleon, to make it matters worse, like what if we see the reveal and before Peter could even do anything, he gives him the speech like, "You've already lost," and like he kills him, like does something and kills himself. So Peter can't even process
what happened.
Take out his
as
processing.
Soon as he's found out all of this, because now he has this trauma that he hasn't even got to express. He finds out all of this stuff that breaks him, and he doesn't even get the satisfaction of taking out Chameleon for it. Chameleon sacrifices himself to bring in Kraven.
Yeah, and then the fourth movie, he's rage. He's dealing with the fact that everything he just learned is a lie. The symbiote comes into play, but then he knows Harry, like the whole plan, all the people are out and they're after him. He gets beat first, and then he gets the symbiote.
It starts off with him fighting the Sinister Six and losing, and then the Six go into like hiding or start playing. So they can't just be running amok the whole movie, but he has to get beat and then can't find them. And that's when he runs into Black Cat, and that's when the symbiote gets involved.
At the Oscorp facility.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to find, he knows it's Harry. He's trying to find where could they be hiding? Where are they getting their powers? And they just are both breaking into the same place. Yeah.
It's like in the 90s cartoon when the episode Return of the Green Goblin. And Peter knows it can't be Norman Osborn, but he knows it's Harry. So when he's trying to find Harry, he's like, I know your addresses. I know everywhere you've been. I know your father's lair. I know where you go. It's like, you can't run from me. So it's like he's searching all these different places Harry could be because he already knows who the goblin is. So
he's not trying to find out who it is. He's just trying to catch him. Yeah.
And then maybe not even like Black Cat, like trying to steal it. Like he comes across it and it calls to him. Because it feels like it does in Spectacular when Brock goes to touch it.
Yeah, it just pulls him. But like Black Cat doesn't need to be trying to steal this. She could be trying to steal something else that happens to be at the same place. And it's an accident that he ends up getting the symbiote on him.
Yeah, and then that's when he gets full of rage and he takes it back to the Sinister Six. But at this point, we do like Spectacular, like you said, where he's unconscious.
I really, really want to do that, where he starts the fight off, and then you see that shift where it's like the symbiote takes over, and I mean business. Like he's no longer talking; he's just all And actually, with the symbiote suit, then we could get the Tom Holland eyes where they move without having to adjust his suit because the symbiote is actually showing its own emotion.
Yeah. Yes.
So that can make up for the fact that he's not talking.
Right.
It puts on the black suit and it is creating its own emotions with those.
That's cool.
Three fights, boys. Yeah. First one, he loses. He finds a symbiote. Second one, it'll be like Spectacular Part 1, but he's fighting him in New York, right? Yeah. And Aunt May is there. And so he has to rescue Aunt May. Then he has to bail, right? And then they get away. And then the third one, he's not in control, right?
Yes.
And then at one point he thinks he's going to take them out, right? Mm-hmm. And he wakes up
and realizes what's happening, has to get separated from the symbiote.
Because we could play it like he has the symbiote suit on, but the first time we see him fight, he's still looking like the costume, right? Like in Spectacular, and morphs into a different costume.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he wakes up and then he's fighting the Sinister Six, say they have him, whatever. Our first instinct is like what you said, like his eyes move, right? Okay. Clearly, and then the symbiote does the tendrils.
And I really want to have the tendril attacks, like in Web of Shadows, where you have all the symbiote attacks going everywhere. And he would need that when he's fighting 6 people by himself. So that's how he can take them out. Yeah.
We don't lose the symbiote at the end of this movie.
Okay.
We ended on I think I'll keep you, right? He knows the power. The episodes from the old 90s cartoon where he has the black suit and he doesn't know what's wrong. It flashes Venom, like he's on a building and it flashes something evil.
Mhm.
And then the next episode, he's like the symbiote's like has full rage on him, right? But then he realizes he has to get rid of it. So at the beginning of this one, there's something that happens and he has to chuck it. So then Venom is born at the beginning of the next movie, rather than having to rush him getting rid of the suit. Because then in Spectacular, we could do like he's having a full internal dialogue with the symbiote, trying to separate him, right? And then he can bring back all the emotion of all the people he loves, like Gwen, to help block out the negative, right? We can have that whole, because you can't put that in the Sinister Six movie too, right? That's so much, too much. So if you do that at the beginning of the fifth movie, and then have Venom show up in the middle, and then just wreak havoc and like torment him, and then they have a final blow. Do the whole like symbiote saga where it's like he's dealing with the black suit, and Venom is just a recreation of his emotions,
his darkest desires.
Yeah.
And because he takes over Eddie is powerless to stop the symbiote becoming this dark mirror.
With him fighting the symbiote, like in Spectacular, it'll form into Venom's head, right? It'll be talking to him like the symbiote. So we get glimpses of him at the very beginning, but we get a full body realization in Eddie Brock later. And we'll be teasing him throughout these two movies. Like a Sinister Six, he'll be there taking photos and videos and everything.
And because they already have an antagonistic relationship because of the chameleon. Eddie was the one pushing the chameleon story.
Yes. Gotcha. Okay, so I think that's how we play out these three movies. A brand new trilogy.
Yeah.
Sony, call us up.
We're here. We're ready.
I don't know why it didn't take anybody with brains to write the next movie. Like, I don't know how anybody was sitting in a booth and then Avi Arad and whoever else was in charge was like, we don't know what to do.
Aren't always necessarily the people who are the fans of it.
Even though Avi and them are like, oh yeah, we're huge fans. Okay. No, you're not. You're just trying to force things
of
that
all the money that you can make from it. But
get out of here.
I think when you step back from a situation and you just talk it out loud, you develop way more about it. And then from here, you just pick it apart and make it into a solid movie. Like it's already a solid movie.
Yeah.
Because all three of us woke up this morning with epiphanies and we're like, oh my God.
And different ideas.
We each spewed a different movie.
Yeah. And yet we somehow like kind of take pieces together and you end up with a masterpiece of a trilogy.
Yeah, I'd say so. Because you built upon the first two. You're calling everything back in the Chameleon one, but then everything comes to a front with the Sinister Six in the fourth one.
Yeah.
And then you get Venom to finish off the trilogy because it's everything Peter's went through is now in a physical form.
Yeah, literally. It's like
demons.
All of his his own demon is who he's fighting, but not metaphorically, literally.
It writes itself, guys.
Yeah,
it really does. It does.
Call up Andrew.
I think we got a solid trilogy going. Now, here's the question. Who do you want to be Chameleon?
Oh.
What about Idris Elba? Because he's not a physical villain. He doesn't have to be young. He doesn't have to be the same age as Peter.
That's true.
And he's actually supposed to be older because he's been working with his dad.
Yeah,
that's so true.
That's good. That's good.
Good point.
Because technically, we don't have to have him do any other voice because we would just bring back Emma Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. He would just do himself. Yeah.
Dude, I think that's
a good one. I picked that.
I kind of like it, to be honest. Yeah.
What about Cillian Murphy as Chameleon too?
Oh,
that'd be kind of cool.
I could do that.
He does a really good job.
Because I feel like they would bring different takes to it.
They would. Cillian Murphy would be a little more scarecrowy, and Idris Elba would be a little bit more like kind of like a spy,
intimidating. Yeah.
But
anyway, Spider-Man 3,
4 and 5,
4 and 5, all mapped out.
I like it even more than I thought. I thought I had some cool ideas, and this just blew everything out of the water. Like I want to see the movie we just made right now.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so good about like collaborative ideas, right? We each have our own, but I came in with one villain. I just want to do a villain, and like we spanned Ian's idea for the fourth movie, what he wanted for this one, bridge it all together, and we bridged all your stuff about wanting to have Peter's like mental.
Well, we never would have even got to having his father being Chameleon if we hadn't been talking about how you wanted to bring the parents more into it and having that relationship to them. So. Takes a couple little tidbits here, and before you know it,
you got a full whiteboard.
Give us a check, Sony.
You got a full whiteboard. Yeah. So if you guys got any final thoughts,
we'd love to hear them.
No, you. Do you have any final thoughts?
Oh,
Nick?
I thought you were talking about.
We would
Yeah.
also love to hear your thoughts
People
in
in
the
the
comments.
comments.
Yeah,
But,
we
yeah.
want
Tell
to
us
hear
in
their
the comments.
comments.
But I want to, before we close it out, we have final thoughts before, we let the audience who watch tell us what they think.
Please, Andrew Garfield, be the werewolf again.
I think he would come back.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point, he loved it so much and they just did him dirty. Like him now, his acting ability, like he was phenomenal then.
He's grown so much since then. Yeah.
Yeah. And like we would film it, like we would film them all in the same time. That way we could get 2 years of him and be done. And then he can finish off, ride off into the sunset.
Exactly.
Back to back. So yeah, my final thoughts, like it was great seeing Andrew in No Way Home. He's my favorite Spider-Man, but I really wanted him to have his final movie. So I loved us coming on here, really bringing him a movie that I know he would want to make because he's such a great actor. He loves diving deep into character.
And he's such a big fan too.
Yeah, he's such a massive fan. And I feel like giving him scripts that he can really dive into. Studio involvement, I'm firing them all.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who messed up number 2. We didn't talk about the director, but
yeah,
I think Mark Webb could easily.
I think he could. Yeah, no, he didn't do anything that he shouldn't have. He could definitely.
He had great vision, and I think him and Andrew had a great relationship. I think he worked well with the actors, so we'll bring him back. But for us building this in a matter of an hour and a half, I think we did a hell of a job.
I think we did. Yeah.
Likewise. Yep.
So with that, I want everybody who's watching, comment below. Tell us what you think of our 3 films. If you want to see this movie, tell us your ideas for a third movie. Yeah, if you have something totally different,
give us your casting. We want to see who you want to put as these. We never even touched on like Scorpion or Vulture. So if you got any ideas for those, let us know.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'm Brian.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Nick. And this is 2 Hours on Sunday.
We'll catch you guys later.
Whip, whip.